Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Tea and Twits, just two girls talking about stuff that we care about. Laura, it is National Suicide Prevention / Awareness Month, and it's gonna be a fun episode because we have Adam with us again.
Yeah, they tried getting rid of me. They couldn't.
We kind of can never get rid of you because, you're technically like the Jeff of us. So
I'm
you're
the
just
head
kind of
twit.
there. Sure, whatever you want to say.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yesterday, being September 10th, was National Suicide Prevention Day. Sorry, there's two words. Words are hard today.
Understandable.
So we just want to bring, awareness to, suicide in our society and also mental health, kind of as an all-encompassing factor. And I believe, Laura, do you have some facts for us?
Wow, I was way too
Lay
happy
it on
about
us.
it. Okay, so to start with, more than 43 million Americans struggle with mental health issues, or mental illness specifically. And just so everyone knows, I'm getting these from DoSomething.org. So they have like all their actual sites and resources listed, like it's an actual dissertation. So go there.
Awesome.
I'm a mess today. Wow. There we go. Mental illness can affect people of any age, race, religion, or income. A mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, and ability to relate to others in daily functions. And depression is the leading cause, or not cause, is the leading kind of mental illness because so many people deal with it. And half of all mental illnesses show early signs before a person turns 14, and 3/4 of them show before the age of 24. Yeah.
Wow.
On to the suicide side of everything. This is a long number that I'm probably going to screw up, so I'm sorry. 47,173 Americans died of suicide in 2017, which made suicide the leading cause of death in the U.S., the 10th leading cause.
Wow.
And there were twice as many suicides as there were homicides in the United States in 2017. This is an issue. I have a computer that looks kind of like my boss's. I'm so sorry to get off topic. And I tried to do a touch screen, but I don't have a touch screen. That makes so much sense. Okay. Sorry, I'm going everywhere. About 50% of people in the U.S. know someone who has died by suicide in their lifetime. And on average, one person dies by suicide every 11 minutes in the United States.
Wow. You'd think with how prevalent, mental health and mental illness or suicide is in our society that, at least in the States, we would have a better mental health system to help combat that, but it's almost just written off as an afterthought.
Yeah, and in that same type of vein, it's kind of a stigma of, oh, no one talks about it. Now I know our generation's kind of getting better with it and trying to make things more prevalent and aware of them, but there are some other generations that just still try and push it by the wayside. So we're trying to do our best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will probably be the generation that turns that tide completely. We just have to keep
going back
in the
to
forefront.
the older generation. You also have to stop and think that they viewed it as a sign of weakness, when in reality it's a sign of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and this problem goes back quite a ways. And one thing that really wasn't said is that veterans are more likely to commit suicide, I believe. Because of PTSD, all that. Because let's be realistic. If they're in a war zone, odds are they see their friends die right in front of their eyes. So,
Yeah. And like I said, that our mental health system really needs a big reform, and in order to help, veterans, veterans, children, older adults, we need them reformed so that we can properly help these people, and it not just be,
written off.
kind of an afterthought or written off, because it is important. Like, and I know most people, most of the older generation nowadays are like, well, we're just over medicating, those that, all they really need to do is just get over it. It's like, that's not how that works. Not how that
No, but
works at
there
all.
is a fact of like over medication is a thing, but
Yeah.
it has no direct
Right.
correlation to dealing with mental health issues.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it is easy for people to say, get over it, because they haven't gone through it. And I think
Or sorry,
it's okay.
either they haven't gone through it, or they're kind of pretending they haven't went through it, and that's how they were forced to get through it, so that's how they're making everyone else do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they haven't, or they're pretending or whatever, it's also a case of, if you think back 10, 15, 20 years ago, like, it was such a taboo topic that, like, you bring it up, you're getting thrown into a nut house. So,
Exactly.
and I think this episode, for those who haven't gone through it or just want to pretend they haven't, I think this episode is going to be good for them to realize it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to realize you need help.
Exactly. The more open we are about talking about this stuff, the easier it's going to be to normalize it.
Yeah. And that's something that needed to happen, 10 years ago.
Yeah. But now it's just taking the younger generation to actually do it.
And the younger generation, like us, and the ones that are younger than us, are, I feel like, doing a good job at it, just because of one, a lot more of us are more open to talking about it, but two, there's social media now to where we can kind of put that out there. Like, you see Rooster Teeth as being an example of, they had a community talk yesterday. I didn't get to watch it, unfortunately. Like, a live stream about mental health and suicide and all of that. There's now websites dedicated directly to mental health and suicide prevention services and help centers, essentially.
And I wanted to watch that live stream. I just wasn't able to. But yeah, you've got bigger, more influential companies that are starting to really hit home about that, and that's fantastic. Yeah. But it's up to, everyone to keep pushing it forward.
And it's actually kind of ironic that we're recording this today, because we're talking about suicide, mental health, and all that. Like, 18 years ago, to kind of tied in, there was an attack in New York, and the first responders lost how many friends, loved ones. Like, it's hard to normalize something like this without talking about it. And you think back to, like, that makes it 10 times harder.
Yeah. It's just this entire week, with it being National Suicide Prevention Week month, it's
Yeah.
very fitting. So, but I think now we're gonna go into kind of our own personal stories. Just whatever we feel comfortable with sharing.
Without taking 20 minutes,
Yeah, just so that,
because we all do not have
right,
the
without
mental
taking 20
capability
minutes.
of doing that currently.
Yeah, unless we want to start blubbering, no, we're gonna try and keep it short
I've
as
cried
much as we
enough the
can.
last 2 days. I don't want to.
I'm trying to hold in my tears because I know I'm gonna be crying towards the end of the
Yeah.
week. So,
So I think our agreed upon
um,
order, Megan, my darling.
yay! Now I'm actually
Just remember,
kind of
Megan,
excited
the bitch
to
goes
share my
last.
story. All right. So I've really struggled with my mental health since a very young age. Starting in kindergarten all the way up through college, I was actually bullied really severely for my weight. So I started experiencing, bouts of depression starting probably around 5 or 6, and was never treated for it. Instead, my parents, when they took me to a therapist, it was for anger issues, and didn't believe me when I told them, I'm, sad all the time. So I went untreated with my depression for many, many years. And it got to the point where a family doctor actually, put me on medication to try and uh, help like balance out my hormones, just so that I could feel somewhat normal. Um, but with the bullying, and I also got death threats while I was in high school, that didn't really help with my depression. So going into college, I was actually assaulted while I was overseas for school, and that led to developing, PTSD. And once I finally got out of school, uh, I was actually able to get, my correct diagnoses. I have major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and PTSD, and was finally able to get the help that I needed. But that also came with a price, because the only reason I started going to therapy was because I had a nervous breakdown and tried to take my life, which was really scary. I was living alone, had no one near me, and just broke down in the middle of a work day. And it's just was a very, very scary time for me. But once I was able to get the help that I needed, uh, was able to get the correct medications and stuff like that, I started to feel better. And, there's always ups and downs with mental health struggles. One of my downs being, while I was going to therapy, during the time period I was going to therapy, not while I was at therapy, I should make that distinguished. I actually was raped by someone, and that reignited my PTSD. But unlike when I was in college, I didn't have the struggles with alcohol, because after my sexual assault, I actually became a very deep alcoholic, and was able to pull myself out of that. So my mental health has kind of been all over the place in my adulthood, I guess, up until now. But I'm still, working through it. I'm still taking medication, and I know that I will probably have to be on this medication for the rest of my life, but I would rather work on my mental health with that in my back pocket as a safety net than get into that place again where I'm wanting to take my life. And that's also why I chose the career path that I'm going for with psychology, and wanting to be a therapist and wanting to help, those people that need someone to talk to. So that's my story.
I never know like what to say whenever I hear. Oh my god, words are fucking hard. Whenever I like hear someone tell their story, because it's like I've always been on the receiving end of, oh, I'm so sorry, this, that, and the other, and I fucking hate it. So it's like I never want to do that to someone because I know they've probably been through that 20,000 fucking times and are tired of hearing it, just like I am. It's the same thing whenever someone I know passes away, I say things to their family. Same thing of I never want to say, oh, I'm so sorry, when it's like, you didn't do it, right? Like, I don't have to like put you in jail for murder or whatever. So it's kind of in the same vein of, I'm with ya, I love ya, blah 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 blah.
Sometimes just saying I'm sorry is enough, though. Same thing with thank you. And it's always hard because you don't know how people are going to react.
Mm-hmm.
But when I tell my story, I'll proudly get into the reasons why I'm saying I'm sorry and thank you are sometimes the best. But I mean, right now, it just means you're there for them. Like, that's how they mean it.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to articulate it without sounding condescending.
Condescending. Is that a word? I feel like we've made it
Yeah.
a word if it's not.
It is a word.
Okay, cool, great.
It's pretty much being an arrogant fuck.
True.
Condescending, not condescending. Yep. I think you heard the
Y,
probably. Not the G.
100% I probably did.
But yeah, I mean, I've told my story so much, more recently that, it's easier for me not to cry through it, especially going through the stuff that happened more recently. But it's still, kind of, it still like hurts. But the more I get comfortable with telling my story, the easier it's going to be for me to help someone else. All right, and I believe it's Laura's turn now.
I'm like cringing. Even though for me, I've been a very big advocate of helping places that have helped me. So I essentially went to my journey, actually. Let me start at the fucking beginning, I guess. I know I've said on here before, like, my dad died when I was young, blah, 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 blah. Simple term is my dad passed away about a week after my 10th birthday. My grandmother followed not too long after. And it was a downward spiral after that. After my dad passed, and then my grandma right after I started self-harming. And from there, it was a spiral of everyone's going through so much for themselves that none of us knew how to help each other. And it's one of those things of, I didn't know how to ask for help. I would say, oh, the cuts on my arm are from the rabbit or the cat, or oh, I fell. And I just thought that was kind of normal, the self-harm, all of that. And then after, I was also severely bullied, essentially, for my weight. So I had people in middle school essentially telling me to kill myself. The first person who ever told me to kill myself was someone in 5th grade, which was the same person who also told me that my dad didn't die. He killed himself to get away from a daughter like me. And that was kind of the first time my brain had ever heard those words, like kill themselves, all of that jazz. So it just kind of went on a spiral until I got help from Tomorrow's Rainbow, which is an organization for grief counseling down near me, and it's through therapeutic horseplay and all of that. And they thankfully helped me. With the suicide aspect, I have, in the same vein as the self-harm, it wasn't ever prevalent, but I had, well, I don't want to say prevalent because it is, but I never spoke about it in depth during my beginning therapy sessions. But I have attempted suicide twice in my lifetime. Hopefully that's the only ever fucking time I'll do it. But for me, since I was in 8th grade, early high school, I've essentially been talking about the entirety of my story in depth, and sometimes my talks will go anywhere from 20 minutes to half an hour or longer, depending on what questions people have for me. So I very much always say, without that place, without the help and support of everyone around me, I would be 6 feet under. So I thankfully am at a place now in my lifetime to where I don't want to say I'm happy all the time because that would be a fucking lie. And I don't like lying about shit like that because of where it got me in the past. So it's one of those things of I'm doing the best I can and I'm happy with where I am in my life now. Because I hate dealing with what ifs. And what ifs are probably the worst possible thing for me. And along the same vein of why I don't like the I'm sorry type thing is I've been lied to so much in my lifetime, and it just integrates into the story, and I don't want to go on for 40 minutes talking about it because I will cry. It's the same vein of sometimes those words to me just seem so empty, but they're not for other people. So it's one of the things I'm trying to work toward, of being okay with hearing them and saying them. If I keep going, I'm just gonna rant. So I'm done.
Okay.
All right. First of all, fuck that person in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Because that is. Oh,
that was
that
the
makes me
only
angry. That
time
makes me
where
so
I
angry.
would have gotten suspended if my friend didn't drag me away, and I broke down crying at the back of the fucking field, and all the 5th grade classes were out there. Everyone went back inside, my teacher, everyone, and I'm just sitting on the ground sobbing. So my friend kind of picks me up, and he's known me for years, and takes me to his teacher, who's also known me for years because my mother works at the school, and proceeded to tell teacher everything, and a whole fucking thing happened after that. But yeah, that was the time that I would have gotten suspended from school for hitting a bitch.
If I had been there, I would have been in the back of a cop car because that person would have been on the ground.
So, things.
But just know that I love you, and I'm glad that you're still here.
Yeah.
So
Just remember, I won't get mad when you yell at me. I generally deserve it.
You generally deserve it. I also just yell at all of you Twits equally, except Megan, because Megan's my sounding board.
I think the least people yelled at would be Megan and Logan.
Oh, completely 100% accurate.
After that, I don't know if it's me or Joe gets yelled at the most.
Joe, 100% Joe.
Because he brings up second.
Oh, goodness gracious. We're all a mess.
I know.
Well, the only reason why I'm doing this...
Adam, I believe.
The only reason why I'm doing this is because I want to get the laughs out. Because... hey, I segued into my story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, 2 out of 3. Adam, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this.
trust me. Oh, trust me. So, I'm going to start from the time I was 3. So, I was 3, outside playing, small town. A guy stops and asks me to fix his tire. Me being the stupid kid I was, went to help him, only to find out later that he wanted to kidnap me. He did the same thing to a lot of other kids. Then I turned 4. My friend's uncle, well, I'll talk more about my friend later on, he goes ballistic or something. Again, I don't have a good memory. Pretty much threatens me and my entire family. So, 3 and 4, those are supposed to be good times. And I get to deal with that. Then, I turn 5. I start school, all that fun stuff. I say the word shoot in class. And I get yelled at by a teacher for it. Not because I swore, but because people said I did. And while I was 5, there were a number of other incidents, like kids saying he didn't want to be near me, my friend ditching me, me being cornered, me being bullied for how I pronounce S's, and pretty much any word that starts with an S. We go on vacation the summer I'm 5. About a day or 2 before we return, we find out our house was broken into by my friend's uncle. So, that's not good. 6. We go on vacation again. Same thing happens. This time he pours gasoline on my dad's car. Doesn't light on fire, just pours the gasoline. So about this time, I'm starting to think, was it something I did? What did I do to cause all this? I'm going to blame on myself. When I'm 7, nothing really bad happens, I believe. All I know is I got hit in the head a lot with baseballs that year. So, probably concussion. Same thing at 8. At 9, I started slowing down when I'm eating because I was thinking I was too fat. This continues into when I'm 10. I find out we're moving. I'm upset because, again, I want to try and fix everything I could with my friend and his uncle and all that. I ate at most back then half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. Then when I got home, maybe some crackers for dinner. Depending on what we were having, was anything else, it was like Italian food. It was Italian food, I'd probably get a plate of that. Even then, I'd only eat half of it. And again, it's because I thought I was fat. And I'm not touching on the bullying stuff because the two of you have touched on it. Then, we turned 14. Again, I don't eat anything. I weigh at best 130 pounds, if that. And I have a tonsillectomy done. I was out of school for a couple of days, and I went to the state fair. About a day or 2 after the surgery, my brother goes into a coma. And to kind of touch on what my brother meant to me, he's the one person who I could trust with anything. Like, without him, I probably would have just gone ballistic. I had no enjoyment in anything unless my brother was there. So we spent 8 agonizing days going to the hospital to visit him. Each day, you see hope, that hope that he's going to get better disappear. I tried keeping it together, but I really couldn't. On the 8th day, April 4th, we pulled him, we took him off life support. I couldn't feel anything except numbness. And it resonates with me so much because I had a group of friends who, when I first got out there, they and I really didn't see eye to eye. And during those 8 days, hell, even when it started, they were always there for me, getting my mind off of things, making me laugh. So after those 8 days, like, they were hard on me in the beginning, as I said, they softened up because they realized, okay, I just went through something tragic. Others didn't. Because in school, I had no energy to do anything. So, 6th grade, a teacher sat there and said, oh, well, you're just not going to graduate. I can't wait to see you back here again. No faith in me, no nothing. 7th grade, again, same thing. Oh, you're just going to fail. And it was pretty much, why even bother with school when the teachers don't even care? 8th grade was probably the worst year because that was probably the one year that I was pretty close to, well, committing suicide. But it wasn't just going to be a regular old suicide. Something that's risen in the country is school shootings. I was going to commit one in 8th grade. The reason wasn't because I was playing violent video games or anything like that. It was because I viewed it as they didn't help me when I was getting bullied. Why should I care about them? I'm pausing a lot because it's hard to really articulate just how disgusted I am with myself for that. And how disgusted I am for how I acted in 9th grade when I pretty much ruined a friendship. And in 10th grade, how I pretty much drove somebody away. And when I say I drove them away, like, after my brother died, my dad and I didn't have a good relationship. And in 10th grade, I really pushed him away more. He'd get home from work, I'd go upstairs. Like, no, I know he wanted to know how my day went, how I was doing and all that. I put the blame on everyone else, other than me. Because I figured if I put the blame on myself, then maybe they'll be able to do the same. And I didn't want that. I tried doing it in 8th grade, again, told you what I was about to do there. And also in 10th grade, I ditched school a lot. Like, to the point where the one time I didn't, the teacher just marked me as absent because they had no clue I was there. That was the year I decided to take a stupid photo, which was me doing a Nazi salute because, again, I was a stupid kid. looking back on those days, I regret everything I did. But more than that, I'm proud of myself because I didn't think I'd live to see 20. Here I am, almost 6 years later, just now being able to realize what I want to do. So yeah, that's my story summed up.
Thank you for being so open and honest in telling your story. We may not like the things that we did when we were younger, but that just shows how much of a better person we've grown into.
And I think that's one thing people don't kind of understand is how someone can change so much from all of that, because you now realize your mistakes, realize your wrongs, and feel sorry for that, for doing those things.
Yeah.
There's people who don't, and that just hurts everyone around them in the long run. And it's one of those things of the same vein of there's no words to really kind of say other than thank you, we care about you, blah 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 blah, because I can't do touchy-feely shit right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like,
kind of funny because I couldn't do that well, I still can't.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, please do. Like, Megan knows that I don't do anything subtle. Like,
yeah,
very true.
There's an incident that we're not going to talk about that she even commented on, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, yep.
And I
I know what you're talking about.
I skipped over talking about that because, again, my friend was like a sister to me, and I didn't get a chance to tell her, so I started blaming myself again.
And that's the one big thing about, mental health in general is that you tend to blame yourself for stuff that's beyond your control or beyond your purview. And it's very hard to get yourself out of that mindset. I still struggle with that, and it's just something that we have to live with. It's like we know it's not our fault. We can't help feel like it's still our fault. And it's not narcissism. It's just the way that our brain has learned to cope.
Yeah, now that we have Joe, we can also blame Joe.
First of all, that's not healthy either. But also, you're kind of right.
Joe, if you listen to this, why are you listening to our content?
Why are you listening to our content? We're the only ones who listen to our own content. You should know this by now.
That's not true. We have people that listen to us. I have been.
Shit.
Yes, we do.
I'm so sorry to people who actually listen to us. I'm so sorry.
Hey, they continue to listen, and we love you guys.
This is true. I'm so sorry to deal with bullshit.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I wrote it down. We do want to kind of also go over some misconceptions both about suicide and mental health, just because there's so much bullshit out there. And nowadays it's so much, as far as how we said, it's awesome that we can talk about it and be open about it now because of all the media outlets and everything. We can do that, but there's also misconceptions out the fucking wazoo about it. So, I'm gonna start with the suicide ones first, because there's only 5 of them. But let me rephrase that. There's only 5 that I have currently in front of me. Suicide only affects individuals with the mental health condition, which is completely wrong. First of all, there's a whole series of things that it could be about. Like, yes, like for me, it doesn't just stem from the one thing. It's a whole slew it's like a spider web almost. There's that one central line and 40 things stemming out from it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the best comparison I can do, even though I fucking hate spiders. I don't know where that came from.
I mean, I like spiders.
No. We'll move on from that. No. Once an individual is suicidal, he or she, or I'm just going to do, they will always remain suicidal. Completely false. Will there still be some suicidal tendencies occasionally? 100%. There's some years or days where I'm just not in the greatest place. And thankfully, I've kind of learned to recognize those signs of myself. And I'll be like, okay, cool. Here's where this goes. Okay, like there's some weeks where if I need to take pain medication, I like make sure I take it in front of like my mom or my brother or whatever, just because I know my brain's going to be like, oh, take 20 more of those.
Yeah.
And I even, like, speaking from experience, that's kind of why I'm in that transition of moving, down to Texas with my parents after, my last suicide scare. It's not that I want to be alone all the time. It's that I need that support system. So if my support system is moving, I'm going to move where that support
100%.
system is going.
Okay, next one. Most suicides happen suddenly and without warning. That's like a big flashing stop, red flashy lights. Warning signs, either verbal or behavioral, precede nearly every suicide. I don't want to say always do, because there's some that there may be like that 1 in 100. So most is what I'm going to say. But you need to kind of learn and understand some of the warning signs, just to not only help yourself, but if there's someone around you that struggles with it or could be struggling with it, to be able to look at the signs. Either if you think maybe it's better for you to approach them, just be like, hey, are you okay? And tell me truthfully, are you okay? Or to take it to someone in a higher power of, hey, I don't know if they're doing so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got someone close to you that, has started acting out of the norm than what they're usually doing, ask them. It may be awkward as hell. Ask them, how are you doing? And are you okay? Those words mean more to anything if someone is struggling, because it shows them that someone cares.
And to kind of elaborate on that, like, they say that it happened suddenly, you said?
Yeah, I think
I couldn't understand how to, like, articulate words, so I said the word suddenly.
Yeah, I can say that's generally false, partially from my own experience, because it's easy to say it happens suddenly, but they could be planning it months, even years in advance.
True.
Like, when I said that my dad and I didn't have the greatest relationship, I was pushing him away because if I took my life, I didn't want him to think he was the reason. Whereas I felt like if I was too close to him, he would blame himself. And when I went to ask him about it, and this is going back to an earlier topic, he told me to pretty much get over it, but he didn't mean it in a get over it, it's weakness type of way, as much as it's just, okay, he's pushed me away for so long, he's just doing this for attention now.
Right.
So you have to keep an eye out on everything.
Yes.
The next one is people who die by suicide are selfish and take the easy way out. Fuck you.
That is completely false.
Along those same lines, I do want to touch on the word choice of what I just said, because it is also in like the website I'm reading. But I used to say commit suicide because I've had, oh God, six people I know die by suicide, and I used to, when I was saying it in like our group setting and like our circle, I always said the words commit suicide. And I don't want to call her a psychologist. She's essentially my therapist. She essentially, we had the talk of how it has such negative connotation to it. When you hear the words commit suicide, it's like, oh, they were a coward, they're weak, this, that, or the other. When you say die by suicide, it's like, oh, okay, it's no fault of their own.
Yeah.
And that's what the word kind of commit has to it. So it's like, oh, someone commits murder. Like someone's physically killing another person.
Right.
Die by suicide is, I don't want to say the nice term. It's by far not a nice term, but it's
more accurate.
It's more accurate for one, but it also helps the people who are dealing with that death. It helps them understand that it wasn't a bad thing they did. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't bad. Right. There was nothing I don't want to say there was nothing they could have done, but there's no bad energy to it, minus like the death part. But
even
like word
then,
choice wise,
I don't think there's any negative connotation with it, because for some, as bad as this sounds, they may view it as being helpful, and that's a bad way of looking at it. And if you think somebody's about to commit suicide, take it to somebody you trust. Like, I can honestly say, there's one teacher in my high school who, if I felt somebody was about to commit suicide, I would go to them for help. And that's just because he was willing to go out of his way to make sure I went to a lunch because I won a stupid contest in school. Like, to the point where he asked me to give him my dad's number so he could call him and ask if it was all right if he gave me a ride there. So you have people who you can trust.
Yeah. Okay.
And before we move on, but back to that selfish comment in the last one, what people fail to understand is that those who take their lives by suicide, the selfishness is not something that would probably describe them. That's a thing that has they've taken so much time and thought of every single thing, thought about who would miss them if they're gone, thought about family, X, Y, and Z, and they're thinking that that's the only way that their family can, or their loved ones can have a better life.
Yeah, and along that same line, it's so that that person in particular ends their suffering kind of in the most final way, so they're not hurting anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the best way to put it is, well, the way everybody used to put it probably, but it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one for suicide I have is that, which kind of goes along with the whole podcast, is that talking about suicide will lead to and encourage it. False, first of all. It's the stigma of it is the issue, which is why word choice is starting to change and why there's now more hotline support groups and more mental health professionals kind of starting in the work field because it's becoming less stigmatized.
Exactly.
And on top of that, like I said earlier, but it's been such a taboo topic. So most of the older generations would view it as, if you talk about it, you're encouraging it. Whereas if you keep it buried, you're not. I can honestly say that had I released everything I had bottled up when I was 16 or 17, I can guarantee my life wouldn't be this way. I could guarantee I'd be a lot happier. My dad and I would have a great relationship. I wouldn't push my friends away. And again, going back to my friend, I could at least been there to talk to her and explain that she's not alone.
Right.
And speaking of being alone, this podcast, again, we're tackling the taboo of it, but we also want you guys to know you're not alone.
You are never alone. And if you guys ever need, someone to talk to, or, you just want to share your stories, our Twitters are always open for you to send us messages, and we will give those Twitter bios or those Twitter handles at the end of the podcast. But you guys are never, ever alone.
Correct.
Okay, and do we want to also do a few mental health ones real quick, or do we just kind of want to leave it at that?
Let's do some mental health ones as well.
Okay. Let the webpage load. Okay. My computer exited out of it. Okay. Da-da-da. We're not going to do that one. Oh, this is one that I've heard so much and I'm pissed at. People with mental health issues, even those that are managing with their mental illness, cannot tolerate the stress of holding down a job.
Listen.
Megan and I can attest to this. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself, indeed. I have held down a full-time job for the last 4 fucking years dealing with my mental health. So, no. That's not true.
I can get temporary jobs.
I shouldn't laugh. Why am I laughing?
Because it's me.
That's us. That's us. Why am I laughing? I shouldn't be laughing.
It's a coping mechanism. I'm sorry.
But it's just how we are.
Yeah.
We could say something completely serious.
And
you're going to have... Yeah.
It's like when we play Cards Against Humanity and we're all like, yep, going to hell.
Yep. Driving the bus.
Or when somebody's all happy looking at their phone, looking at Instagram or something, they just look up and just say, I want to go back to looking at my phone.
Oh my God. Okay.
Never see the light of day, will they?
Oh my gosh. Next one.
Okay. That there is no hope for people.
Yes, people.
I swear I'm okay. There's no hope for people with mental health problems, and once someone develops mental health problems, they will never recover.
Fake news.
Fake news. Along those same lines, it's it may always be there. It's the anxiety disorder will always be there. The manic will always be there. Yes, but they're not going to be. I don't know how to fucking say it.
They're not held hostage by.
Thank you. Perfect way to do it.
Our mental health does not define us.
Correct. There we go. This is why you guys are here, because I can't articulate words.
We know.
It's a hard topic.
Yeah.
That
we also
prevention...
understand that people don't like talking about it.
Shut up. Okay. That prevention doesn't work, and that it is impossible to prevent mental illness. Prevention does work in a lot of ways of kind of in how we're doing now. Talking about mental illness and the issues and everything will help people actually cope better in the long run, because they're going to learn one of the risk factors for any type of trauma, anything like that. But they'll understand their emotions and how to express them in correct ways and everything like that. It's like when you play, this is going to be horrible just because I was playing The Sims earlier. But when you're raising kids in The Sims, they give you these prompts that are like, oh, it'll raise their manners or it'll raise their emotional level. It's that. It'll raise their emotional level to a baseline to where they can understand the world around them.
Exactly.
It is, I think the better way of putting it is kind of, it's unlearning what we thought.
Yes.
So, like, for me, like, this is helping me realize, hey, very good is not good. As a matter of fact, it makes you stupid. Because you push people away, you put blame on yourself, which that's going to inevitably happen no matter what. And it makes you think you're not going to live past a certain age. Whereas if you let it all out, you tell somebody, you tell a friend, you can get out of that. They can be there. They can, for all intents and purposes, hand you a rope out of that hole.
Yeah, bottling up what you're thinking and feeling about is what landed me in a nervous breakdown, so I would not recommend that. No, 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Sorry,
Right.
I needed some sort of levity.
Alright, that's the last one I had because the other ones I hated. So I exited out of the window.
Okay. That's fine. I think that's
Very
a good
cool
place
thing
to
do. I hated the other one, so I left.
I think it's a good place to end.
Yeah.
But before we completely end, we do have some
Numbers?
some numbers and some resources to for those who are struggling with either suicidal thoughts or just their mental health in general. I will leave the numbers in the description just because it's better than trying to say a whole bunch of numbers and have someone try to copy them down really quickly. But the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline right now is actually running a campaign that I think is fantastic. It's called Be the One To, basically meaning like be the one to help someone through a crisis, be the one to be that listening ear for someone, just, to make their community a better place.
May I touch on that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The campaign, Be the One To. Like, I said back when we did our Pride Month episode, like, be the one person who lends the helping hand, the shoulder to cry on, the helpful ear. Be the one who calls things out. I'm going to say this, but your friends may hate it. They may hate you afterwards. But in the long run, they're going to realize what you did for them helped them. So be the one to help.
Exactly. The next resource we have is for our LGBTQA plus community, the Trevor Project. And, that's really good for those that are, dealing with your mental health regarding your sexuality or suicidal thoughts because of sexuality or gender identity or stuff like that. So that one is a really good resource to use. We also have To Write Love on Her Arms, which is a website, but they can help you get connected with resources in your area if you do need help. And we also have the JED Foundation, which is another phone number, but that one is, you can also text them to get started with just someone to talk to about mental health and, suicidal thoughts. But one of the best things that you can do just for others is just be there to be a listening ear.
Yeah.
Let someone know that you're thinking about them or that, you need help. Reach out to people. because, like we said earlier, you are not alone. There are people there for you, and we are here for you if you need to talk to us.
Yes.
So with that being said, like I said earlier, our Twitter DMs are open if you do need someone to talk to. My Twitter handle is masterofpsych17.
I am Lady Laura01. You may not be able to get to me like today because apparently my account's locked because I violated something. So I'm gonna fix that right after we get off.
Of course you violated something, Laura.
No,
my
it's
God.
because my age or something. So I changed something in my account. Now it's like, oh, you violated shit, and I'm like, it's fine. So apparently I'm a
All
horrible
right, then.
person.
You're not horrible.
Yes, I am.
Or preparing. But we have a main account at CyberTwits Pod, and my personal account is at the Atom Bomb Night. Again, our DMs are always open. Slide in whenever you feel the need to talk.
Not even gonna
I'm
touch it.
even
Not even gonna
go
touch
with
it.
I'm just gonna continue.
I think I feel them prepping daggers for some reason.
My sword's too far. I have to leave my bed to get it.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening in on this very needed podcast for National Suicide Prevention Month. Next month will be a fun one with me and Laura where we talk about the spoopy season.
Spoopy season! Yeah!
It's
So
also
look
called
forward
school
to that.
season.
Spoopy!
Spoopy!
School.
But so,
Spoopy.
no. So look forward to
This is
that.
not your
And
podcast.
until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. We love you, and we will see you later.
Bye!
Bye.